This is the DJI RS3 Mini. It is the mini version of the RS3 gimbal, and it really is very small. If I take this little tripod off on the bottom here, you can see this is incredibly small. And there are some big advantages to having one this small like this. It is incredibly easy to take this out and about on shoots and to just have it with you on a shoot without it taking up an enormous amount of room in either a bag or a car or anything like that. It also means the weight of the actual gimbal is nice and light, which makes it very, very easy to do it handheld, one hand, whether you're moving fast, slow, without the need to then put it down all the time. And if you do want to put it down, of course, as you'd expect with DJI gimbals, it's got the nice little mini tripod on the bottom as well. Now, there's a lot of things I really like about this. There's a lot of things that carry over from the RS3. If you're familiar with DJI gimbals in general, so something like even back to the Ronin S, you're going to be right at home with something like this. But there are a lot of nice little quality of life things that I think make this a really lovely gimbal to use. First up, as you can see, all of this is not flapping about all over the place, which is something that can happen with gimbals. It's all locked in place. You've got 3 locks on the different axes of the actual gimbal so that you can lock it in place. That makes it really easy to just either travel with it and also to have it, in the car or just on set or just out and about without it flapping all over the place like crazy. It makes me very comfortable to leave my camera on the gimbal as well. Speaking of which, something I was concerned about was the payload, because this is obviously not particularly big, but I quite comfortably had my Sony a7 III with the 24-70 G Master lens. Now that's not the Mark II lens, which is smaller and lighter. That's the older Mark I lens, which is really quite chunky. And I was able to balance that on here, no problem, and actually go out and shoot with it as well, which is quite impressive because it's not the lightest setup. So you'd absolutely be fine with some really decent cameras and lenses. You probably wouldn't want to put a cinema camera on here, but if you're going to do something like that, you'd want to go for something like the RS3, which is bigger and absolutely capable of holding something bigger like that. Now, to control the gimbal, you've got the screen on the back, which is really easy to use. It's a touch screen, very straightforward to scroll through the various menus and the settings. There's a lot of different things that you can change within the gimbal, and you can also use the app to control the gimbal as well, and all of those settings as well, which makes it very easy, depending on how you want to do it, to set up how you want this to actually shoot. You can also connect the gimbal to the camera. You've got a USB-C port on the side, and you can use Bluetooth as well, which I think is really cool. A clever addition so you don't have cables going everywhere. That means you can then use things like the record button actually on the gimbal itself at the bottom. The motor strength as well with the Sony a7 III on here seemed pretty good. I was able to zoom a little bit with the lens, and that's an external zoom, that lens, without having to rebalance the whole gimbal. And that's quite impressive. Now, obviously the ideal thing is you set it up the way you want to shoot it, then you balance it. But it's nice to know there's a little bit of give and take there. In terms of balancing, I also found that very, very easy. There's instructional videos on how to do that on DJI's YouTube channel and on DJI's website. It's the kind of thing that once you've done it once, you just know how to do it, and it is pretty quick. I mean, you're looking at probably maybe a couple of minutes once you know what you're doing, which is not much at all. That's something you can do very easily by putting the tripod out and do that when you get to where you're going to go shoot. Or of course you could balance before and just lock everything in place, then take it there, unlock it, and be ready to shoot. In terms of actually using this, it's very comfortable to hold. I have big hands, but they fit really nicely on this and actually just under the little trigger at the front here. You've got a joystick at the back, which allows you to actually move the camera. And with the trigger at the front, you can very easily just double press that to recenter the camera facing forward, or triple press it to recenter the camera in kind of selfie mode facing back at you. It seems very, very smooth, which is absolutely what you'd want from a gimbal. That's probably the most important thing. And all in all, it really only took me a few minutes to kind of get set up. You've also got this wheel here, which you can actually use as a focus wheel. If you connect the gimbal to the camera, you can use that as a focus wheel if you'd like, so that you actually have manual control over that. A little bit like a follow focus, but it's built into the gimbal. Really, really nice. This is obviously fantastic for maybe solo videographers, someone who wants to do a quick run and gun thing. If you're doing promo videos, I know I've done that in some cafes before and restaurants where the spaces can get pretty tight. And I used to do it with the big Ronin M, which is like a big old two-handed gimbal. It was a whole thing. This would have made it a lot easier in those tight spaces. If this isn't going to suit you, then the RS3 is the slightly bigger version, which is fantastic as well. Just has different advantages for different uses. But if you want a very small gimbal, I really like this. I could definitely see myself using something like this, and even if you're just a vlogger or something like that, being able to hold it out away from you and get very smooth footage. fantastic. You can check this out by following the link down in the description. You can go see all the pricing, all of that fun stuff. Don't forget to like and subscribe as well. There's new content all the time. I will see you next time, but until then, as always, thanks for watching.